Okay, so there's going to be a lot of names and dates and stuff. So I do not want to overly confuse people. I will just set out the very basics that, because Aaron is the center of all these things. Aaron Smith-Levin is a very big YouTuber, and he doesn't do real anti-Scientology activism. If you were into hating Scientology, that was the place to be, and he cultivated mildly good alliances, but also a lot of bad alliances. So the channel did feature Doug Scott Kramer, who I do still think is a good guy, but we're going to get into Doug's very dark past. Even Zero Dark Tony, but apparently Aaron made that interview magically go away. And most notoriously, Brett, as well as Reese. Now, fair to Reese, she accidentally got doxxed by Aaron until she was forced out of Scientology. Brett, no Scientology past that we can speak of or we know, but he is a really evil and really thorough criminal and con artist. And his crimes are really incredible, and it's just off the charts crazy. So both of them are suffering. Now, Aaron is still gaining some subs back from his various scandals, but he's still below where he was. But he is growing a little bit. Marissa and Brett seem to be with more long-term decline. But I'm going to confuse people a little bit by bringing Dana, aka Rotting Jewels, into the situation. And there are reasons, because we're going to be tying a lot of connections together, so I want to keep all the names and dates straight and the various personalities. So Dana ran with Zero Dark Tony, and both of them were exposing a lot of Aaron's nonsense and the SPTV community, whatever you want to call it, and their scandals and lying and grifting and hypocrisy. And for that, they were exiled. Now, Doug was always in a weird space. Doug was a very independent thinker, extreme conspiracy theorist. He said this, guys. I'm not labeling the man. He was into extreme conspiracy stuff. So he's always stood a little bit apart. He was officially a part of SPTV. He did go do things with Claire and Aaron, and technically even Rinder and a few of those people, but he always was pretty far apart from them. I think he was a stand-up guy, excellent research, but he had, to put him on a dark side, he got into a lot of fights, and some of these are public, so I cannot deny it. There's no sense in denying these things, guys. This stuff is public information now. It is out there. And again, I still like Doug. I admire him, but he had many flaws. So let's go through some of the major ones. So for whatever reason, he got into a huge public spat with the McLowrys, really hating them. I don't know why. I think he thought they were trying to take advantage of him, even though they had a lot of mutual interests. According to Dana, they were going to do things together. And Dana's also in a weird, suspicious situation because for whatever reason, Doug also got into a fight with Zero Dark Tony and with Dana, because at that time they were close allies. And so he just got into a lot of brawls. Even apparently threatened his parents, and that became a police matter. So Doug had a good side, but he had a very clear dark side. So what does this have to do with Brett? Well, I'm going to keep things real simple, and I'll say here again, if you have to say one good thing about each of these people, and again, let me be very clear. One is strong, one is weak. I have to say with Reese, it sounds weird to say this, but she's not a racist. She's not an anti-Semite. I've never seen that in any of her behavior, whatever her lying and grifting is. She's pretty clean on that record. But not so much, which we're going to get into. So Dana gives herself, I think, proper credit. She's not really technically the first one, but she's definitely an early critic of Brett because Brett and Aaron were good friends back then. So Dana did some sleuthing, found out Tommy Scoville is a totally fake name, looked up Brett, and found some devastating information. Now, some of that information turned out to be false. However, she was on the right track, and she got the basic gist correct, that this guy is a really horrific animal, complete scum, and that tells you a lot about SPTV, that they're willing to work with these kinds of people. And a lot of her predictions turned out to be true, that a lot of the ex-Scientology community is corrupt. They're willing to work with some pretty horrific monsters just to make more money or gain more fame. Now, Aaron and Brett, to be fair, are more distant. Aaron has officially announced Brett is no longer welcome, but he's still covering up a lot of things, as is Marissa. So you might think I'm inclined to be favorable to Dana, and I am. And I think her early work is still good, including exposing Brett. But now we're going to get into the dark side of Doug and her, and this is where things are going to get murky. So on Brett's channel, the Live Boat, or Lifeboat, as he calls it, He's doing these consistent videos over and over again saying that his critics are a bunch of haters, racists, that they routinely use the N-word, etc., etc., etc. And I will have to painfully confirm. Let us be very, very clear. Brett is correct to some degree. But just because some of his critics are racist and even fascist, apparently, and anti-Semites, does not mean he's good or innocent. Two things can be true. However, part of this propaganda, and it is propaganda, he's not clearly interested in the truth, there is an aspect of truth, which we're going to get into, and it's going to get brutal on all sides. So just buckle up. So one of the things that is happening is Doug's ally, because he died tragically a few years ago. I hope in my mind that he would have renounced the friendship, but Doug allowed some really questionable people to be platformed. He platformed Theodore Tony. He platformed Maryland. He spoke well of Nora. And again, it's good and bad. He had some great people on, but he had some questionable people on as well. So now Maryland is doing everything to expose not just Brett, but Echoplex Media. Why? Because they're not really friendly with Aaron. And Maryland is deeply embedded in the Aaron cult and protects Aaron, defends Aaron, despite Aaron's very long list of scandals, which Dana exposed. But Smooth Brain somehow, yeah, Brett and Echoplex are the bigger threats. But here's what she's not saying. Now, she loves to bring up she was on Doug's channel, they had interviews together, and apparently were very friendly. She's not telling her audience that, guess what? And let's be clear, this is more Ecoplex's dilemma, but we got to be honest here. So Echoplex had on as a guest Andrew, an ex-Scientologist who was into, well, very extreme anti-Semitic stuff. He's also a criminal, and he has a record in Australia. This goes back to 2017, 2018. Doug and him, Echoplex, not Andrew, Echoplex and Doug have an interview going back to 2020. Now, the interview is not available. I don't know if that's due to Doug, because his channel was momentarily taken away, so it could be a Doug thing, or Echoplex, because he took down his channel when his dark past was being revealed, that he had a Shazam case 20 years ago. Shazam is child exploitation. And that was uncovered by Maryland. Well, no, apparently other people knew, but I'm keeping it very simple. But apparently they did have an interview, and I don't ever do Trust Me Bro, or rarely. You gotta trust me, bro. In one of his videos, before he took away a lot of his content on the Echoplex YouTube channel, he did confirm that, yeah, he spoke to Doug. They have correspondence, apparently. They were friendly with one another, and they were working on things. But that video got pulled away. All I can affirm is I heard it for myself. So they had some kind of relationship. And apparently it was friendly. And there we are. So now if Maryland is going to say that Echoplex is a predator, children are in danger, well, Smooth Brain is not being consistent. That would mean, guys, because of that relationship, that Doug Scott Kramer is also a predator. He was putting children in danger. That's not true. That is not true at all. However, it is true that Doug did embrace some really questionable people, including Echoplex, including Maryland, and all these other people. And this guy is what he is. He's a really extreme anti-Semite, apparently, Andrew, and Echoplex was friendly with that guy. This is a broader problem with the, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theorist community, that they do have this weird back and forth that a lot of them are black, a lot of them are gay. I believe Echoplex is gay, and quote, woke. A lot of them are not. They're white. They're really anti-woke, radically anti-woke. There is a weird overlap between the conspiracy theory community and, yes, the fascist community, even those people. Yeah, like the KKK. It is a very weird melding, not identical, but there is a huge overlap. So part of what Brett is saying, that his critics are haters, racists, racists who use the N-word, is correct. This is a very weird mix of people, and it is a very extreme mix. So now let's tie it all together. And there is still some confusion because Dana's not clarifying things for me. And I've already put out a video showing she lied. She clearly lied about the McLaurys and the process church. So she's been doing a lot of lying. And Virginia provided an extra lie with when she communicated with, I'll just call him L, that's a close friend of the McLarys, and Elle just confronted Dana saying, well, I want clarification on this and this, and Dana lied again. So she does have a history of pathological lying. It just is what it is. Now, Dana's stance is kind of weird. From my understanding, when Doug was alive, he did not like her. He didn't like Zero Dark Tony. Now, Dana's saying they apparently resolved these issues, and she and the McLarys and Doug were going to do things together. Someone messed it up. I'm having doubts about that story, but that is her story. Smooth Brain isn't thinking about how these things work out. If this is true, that she and Doug were actually pretty friendly, one big happy family with her and Parker and Dougie, we're all just one big family, then she must have known about Andrew in Echoplex. But Dana's big thing is to constantly harp on, like Marilyn, with this paranoia of child predators everywhere, child predators in Hollywood, in the Echoplex, in the internet, and they're everywhere, in the lifeboat, we gotta hunt them down. So which is it? Were her and Doug close friends or not? I doubt they were close friends, but she's saying they reconciled and they were going to do things together, right? And Parker does have some material by Doug. So it's now just a very weird, suspicious mix of personalities and conflicts. But we've got to make judgments here. So good faith, either Doug was not aware of these things, which I think is a miracle, or he was aware but just didn't care. And the conspiracy community just has this double standard. So Doug exposed a lot of Aaron's scandals, which is great, and Dana exposed a lot of Brett, as well as Aaron's, well, dark past, which is also great. But it seems when it comes to them, a double standard is now applied, that the conspiracy theorist people get special privileges. So even if they are working with child predators, even if they're working with anti-Semites, even if they put out racist anti-Semitic material, that's okay, guys, because, conspiracy theory stuff. So I don't play those rules. I'm well aware that extreme conspiracy theory can be useful, it can be productive and powerful. You have to use it very carefully. It's like poison. It can be of use in small doses, but if you overdose, it can be very dangerous. So at this point, Dana is putting out some pretty weird anti-Semitic stuff. She's made some very weird friends, and she has a record of lying. Make of that what you will. Now with Doug, I still think Doug did great research. I still think he's a good guy. But I would have to be brutal and say he did not clarify many things. He had many battles and fights. Some of them, they're not justified with the McLarys and other people. And unfortunately, he died tragically. I like to think he would have clarified these issues with the anti-Semitism, with these questionable allies like Echoplex, but we'll never know because he died tragically. So I'm going to put that a question mark, but I think it's fair to judge Doug on his very questionable tactics and alliances, including with Marilyn, who is a complete monster. And I have to just conclude, of all these mix of personalities, these are the facts that Sammy of After the Bars seems to be the only person who has clarified all these issues. He's answered all the questions. He's divorced himself completely from Brett and Marissa. He has shown all the receipts. He's given us a complete timeline. He's gone to Homeland Security. He has given us everything. So his credibility is really strong. I'd have to conclude, sadly, some of Doug's credibility is in doubt now, and it is what it is. And a lot of Dana's credibility is now in doubt. And that's how things are. And that's where we are, but I will do more double, triple checking. So sadly, part of what Brett is saying is true. He's trying to protect himself, but part of what he's saying that he does have haters and racists after him, part of that is correct. It is true. He's still a monster, but that is true.